I have done something wrong in this life. How can I get an attack dolphin? I want to try my whole Marine Corps existence all over again. I want my own attack dolphin.
Welcome to the Scuttlebutt. I'm your host, Sean Hall, the Director of Programming with the Veterans Breakfast Club. We are a small nonprofit in Western PA. Our mission is to create communities of listening around veterans and their stories to connect, educate, heal, and inspire. This whole first season of the Scuttlebutt is coming to a close today. We will be back after the holidays and starting in February, but this is our season finale episode. We created this program to highlight the educational element of the VBC mission by discussing recent military headlines and topics to help bridge the civilian military divide. Joining me today is my all-star team from season one. I'm going to go right around and just let you guys introduce yourself. James, would you like to go first?
My name is James Martin. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for having me. And 15-year Marine, I just do some things.
He does things. Becky.
Hi, my name is Becky Nyron. I am a Gold Star wife. My husband Nathaniel served with the U.S. Army in Baghdad, Iraq. I'm very appreciative to be included in this all-star episode.
And Ryan.
Hi, my name is Ryan All. I'm an Army veteran, and I'm very happy to be here today. Thanks for having me on this all-star cast.
Of course. Yeah, like I said, this is the all-star team. I'm super happy that you guys joined us. If you couldn't tell, I just drank an entire cup of coffee in about 30 seconds so that I have the energy to pop out of a cannon here at the beginning. But like I said, this is our season finale episode. So what we're going to do is a little different than normal, where normally we, set up with some mail call. We do a phrase of the week. We talk some headlines. We dive into a main topic, and we end on some scuttlebutt. Well, we thought, you know what? This is a scuttlebutt series. So let's just do an entire episode of scuttlebutts. Some of these scuttlebutts are actually going to be headlines updating us on where stories have led over the course of the last couple of months that we've been recording this series. And some are just going to be a little bit more obscure. Some are going to be fun. So super happy that you guys are joining us. So diving right into our first scuttlebutt, I saw this headline from military.com just a couple days ago that there's been an update on the Bonhomme Richard. And if you remember back in episode 1, I think I pronounced it Bonhomme Richard. So I've learned a thing or two since then. This is a ship, not a boat. And the Navy said Monday that it will decommission a warship docked off San Diego after suspected arson caused extensive damage, making it too expensive to restore. This warship, being the Bonhomme Richard, 60% of the ship would have likely needed to be replaced to have it fully restored, including the flight deck, mast, and many levels directly below the flight deck. Fully repairing the Bonhomme Richard to warfighting capabilities would cost $2.5 billion to $3 billion and take 5 to 7 years. The preferred option to decommission the ship will take 9 months to a year and cost $30 million. A drop in the bucket. So I'm kind of, I think it's probably good that they decided to go this route. What say you, all-star team?
Well, Navy ships are real expensive. That's number one lesson we can learn from that, and they take a long time to build. And so it's obviously a real shame to lose any capability or any ship like that. But I think obviously with the circumstances being what they are, it's I guess the best decision to decommission. I think it's surprising how long it takes and how much money it takes just to shut down a ship.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also look at it almost like if you had a really nice car and you got into an accident, you're like, oh, it's salvageable. And then you realize that a lot of the electrics went out, the computers went out in your car, and now it's a total destroyed car, and the insurance is going to take it. Well, for a ship of this magnitude, and just like you said, the cost to build when you have people around that do the work on these ships, and you start figuring out dollar amounts, it's not cheap. So on this one here, it's an incredible loss, and we'll see what they come up with next.
I think what I found interesting in that article was it was actually in the process of being updated and restored. And so that was money wasted in the process, as well as the additional $30 million it's going to cost to take it out of service. So that's our, as a civilian, that's our taxpayer dollars at work.
And this is a big operation too. I mean, you're not just talking about the ship specifically, you're talking about the entire crew. Everybody had to be distributed
Relocated,
relocated to other fleets. And they are still in the process of investigating this suspected arson. There's been no update on that as of yet. But as we do get more information and we get into our season 2 of the Scuttlebutt, if there's more, we will definitely update you on that. Moving into our second headline, on Friday, December 4th, the president signed a bill waiving a 5-year procedural limit for Army Sergeant First Class Alwyn Cashe to receive the Medal of Honor. Cashe died November 8th, 2005, weeks after sustaining burns while pulling 6 soldiers out of a fiery Bradley fighting vehicle in Samarra, Iraq. Next, the Department of Defense must submit a measure to be approved by the president to finalize the award for Cashe. This has been sort of developing over the course of our whole first season. Alejandro Villanueva from the Steelers, he had Cashe's name on the back of his helmet. This received a lot of national attention. Obviously, a very an incredible act of bravery on his part, and something worthy of the Medal of Honor posthumously for Alwyn. So it looks like this is going to move forward. I know James, Ryan, Becky, we've all been a part of conversations about this act of bravery and the Medal of Honor and our thoughts on that. So I think that hopefully this just goes through and we'll be able to update everyone by February that this has been awarded.
Absolutely. And the one part that I'm really loving about this is that it took pro athlete to really put this in the spotlight, giving all the controversy of when this actually happened, that it shows that these athletes actually have a platform and have a voice. They're more than just what you see on the screen. It really goes to show that this honor was really deserving of, that it needed presence of mind and people to actually pay attention to the story. So hats off to Villanueva for doing this in the midst of everything that was going on. And this would be really awesome for the Army and for the family of.
I know that VBC actually did an interview with Villanueva. You can find that on the Veterans Breakfast Club website at veteransbreakfastclub.org in our podcast section. Really interesting story that he had in his own right. I hope you take some time to give it a download and a listen. And we would like to also update on the Vanessa Guillen investigation that was happening at Fort Hood. In one of the most sweeping responses to command climate problems in recent memory, Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy announced December 8th that he has relieved or suspended 14 leaders at Fort Hood, Texas, in the aftermath of Specialist Vanessa Guillen's disappearance and murder earlier this year. An independent review, including 9 findings and 70 recommendations addressing major flaws in the Army's sexual harassment and assault response prevention program at Hood, as well as a quote-unquote command climate at Fort Hood that was permissive of sexual harassment and sexual assault, McCarthy told defense reporters at the Pentagon. I have determined the issues at Fort Hood are directly related to leadership failures, McCarthy said. Leaders drive culture and are responsible for everything the unit does or does not happen to do. McCarthy went on in that article to say several other things that they need to do better. We had talked about Vanessa Guillen way back at the beginning of our series, and we're interested in how this investigation came about and that they went out and found an outside source to come in, produce the investigation, and now the Army is now taking action with that in mind. And I'd like to open it up to our all-star team here. Just reactions to how the Army is taking responsibility for this and what your thoughts are and how they are doing that.
Yeah, this is obviously a very sensitive subject. What happened to Vanessa Guillen was an absolute tragedy. And I for one am happy to see that the Army is taking this seriously and that there are consequences for what happened. And that's been the problem, in many of these cases, right? It's slightly inaccurate to say that the Army doesn't care about sexual harassment in its ranks. It cares, but the problem has always been the implementation at the unit level of these things. And so, I think it's great to see that we identified a problem, we saw that it's an issue, and we're not just going to sweep this under the rug. There are going to be consequences for what you failed to do. And you, commanders, had better start taking this seriously. This is not just a yearly requirement to be briefed about the SHARP program and to make sure that everyone's aware of it. There are going to be consequences when bad things happen and you are responsible for it. So you had better start showing and leading by example and making sure that this is a part of your culture and that this is taken seriously. So I applaud the secretary for taking that action, because it seems to me that something had to be done and something needs to continue to be done to ensure that this is part of the the Army culture going forward, right? I've been a commander. It's a difficult thing to do. It's a difficult thing to deal with. I've had to deal with accusations and been a part of some investigations about these sorts of things, and it's very hard. It's a really difficult topic to talk about. And now being the father of a daughter, I don't ever want to have her be in a situation where she has to worry about that. You shouldn't have to worry about that when you're in uniform and you're downrange or in a training facility or at work for the Army. This shouldn't be something that you should have to worry about. And it really has to start with the top down, and they do. They have to start holding people accountable, more accountable than they have been.
Well said, Ryan. Thank you for that.
I think it was disheartening to hear the percentages of the people that were afraid to come forward. Like less than half of the cases were reported of those people that were interviewed. And that to me is staggering. And I think that turns out into the civilian world too. I think any person who is sexually harassed or assaulted in anywhere has that fear of coming forward because of the consequences and what it means in their current position.
Yeah, there's a fear of this ending your career. Yeah.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I've always really admired about all of the veteran stories that I hear at our events is how tightly knit the units are. That you re-enlist because you want to be with the people that you worked with, that you were there with, that you shed your blood, sweat, and tears with, and that's something that I think is the ideal. It's that you hope that within these units, within these squads, that there is trust for the people that are around you and with you, and that you can do your job, because there's more than enough that you have to worry about outside the wire. Then you shouldn't have to worry about what's going on within your squad as well. Moving on to our next topic. The Marine Corps, this is following up on the esports episode that we did. James, the Marine Corps has put together a temporary esports team to compete in an online video game tournament for charity. 6 Marines are part of the service's quote-unquote quick reaction force, set to compete in Friday's 2nd annual Call of Duty Endowment Bowl. A spokesperson said in an email to Marine Corps Times on Tuesday, the event will be streamed live on the Call of Duty Twitch and YouTube channels beginning at 10 a.m. Pacific. The tournament marks the first time in 245 years the Marine Corps will stand up a quick reaction force for esports as it competes against other military branches teams in the newly released Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, according to the press release. The Marine Esports Quick Reaction Force will be disbanded once this competition is over, but could be used again in future gaming events, the Marine Corps said. And until recently, the Army was the only branch with an official esports team, which initially was formed under its marketing and recruitment efforts. The Air Force has taken a different approach by first building video game lounges at bases across the country and forming inter-service teams for competition. But plans could be in the works to form an esports team for competition, the Air Force told Military Times in November. The Navy also recently formed its own esports team, and the above branches and the Space Force will be competing in Friday's online tournament. So, James, your Marines are temporary in esports. How can we change that?
I have jokes, but I'm gonna leave them all alone. I'm just going to say that I thought it was very nifty of them calling it a quick reaction force. Like they walked around the base and said, "You play great, let's go," and stuck them in a lab somewhere so this way they can practice together. So that's actually gonna be kind of interesting to watch.
And if you didn't join us for the esports episode, James and I were avid gamers. James has his handle Ryu Knights, Ryu, 2 words, Ryu Knights, and you're pretty good.
I won't say that I'm good. I play some, but to see them taking this initiative into gaming for whatever purposes, considering that it's at the collegiate level, you can get grants, you can get scholarships for it. And me laughing at the Air Force because they always just play video games anyhow through every last simulation that they do. Um,
Mm.
that I think it's a neat little push, and it will help get the name out. It will help with recruiting, and it definitely identifies to that gamer. And for us veterans to keep on playing, kudos.
Did
Welcome,
you
welcome, welcome to the league.
did you think the other branches probably watched the Army and said, okay, well, yeah, we'll see how this goes, and then they realized how popular it is, and they were like, oh, maybe we should do this too.
Well, I got to actually see the Army's actual like pitch, and it was really interesting. I went to PAX East in Boston, a very large gaming convention, and the Army E team was there. And my heart of hearts, being a Marine, of course I laughed until I went down there and saw their display. And it's not just it is partly a recruiting thing, but they showed in a very scientific, a very logical means that it's like, hey, you run around with these controllers all day, you're playing all these games. Well, you don't understand that your hand-eye coordination could work well when you're flying a drone, when you're using an unmanned, bomb disposal device, and all these other things that come with this hand-eye coordination from playing games. And due to the fact that all these branches are trying to find a smarter, more efficient, and a technological advantage, these kids who've been playing keyboard and mouse at their house all day long on their computers or playing on consoles are best suited for some of the work that we're about to go into. So as much as it is a strategy for recruiting and with the Air Force putting it into the bases for morale, there's a level of training that comes from this. And it was very well put on from the Army. So my hat goes off. Hopefully the Marine Corps will figure it out and join the band, please. But it's awesome to see. And then
You
I
hear that,
love.
Marines esports team? James is calling you out.
I'm begging you. And then the sheer fact that Call of Duty is reaching out to active duty and putting this on, and there'll be the camaraderie. Of course, there'll be the trash talking, but it's all in good fun and good nature. I love it.
Ryan, when you were a recruiter, did you ever think that there would be a point where they'd be playing video games to recruit people?
Yes and no, but to be honest, the biggest thing I took from what you read was that of course the Air Force has gaming lounges set up on their bases. Like, of course, that's the way that they've gone. We don't need a team. This is for everybody. Everybody can come play games. We don't, whatever.
I feel like the Coast Guard is being left out here. Like they need an esports team too.
Yes, I think that esports teams are great, and I think that anything that goes out to conduct outreach to individuals who might be interested in joining the military that's a great idea. I know that I would be the kind of guy who would have the luck that, like, I wanted to be a gamer, and then I sign up and they're like, here's your mop, like, game that private, like, that would be, I'd be a drill sergeant. Where's my console?
How many points did I get for mopping this floor? Becky, as you said before we started recording,
Yeah,
boys and their toys, right?
exactly. No comment.
This leads me to a very interesting headline that I came across in military.com, that North Korea may have trained killer dolphins. What? A 2000 BBC report alleged that Iran purchased a fleet of dolphins from a former Soviet Union dolphin trainer. Those sea creatures were not only trained to seek out underwater mines, but also to attack enemy frogmen who infiltrated harbors. The dolphins could also reportedly use suicide tactics to attack enemy ships with explosives. Now, a new report from the U.S. Naval Institute suggests the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, North Korea, is developing wet mammal demolitions, WMDs. Hold your smirks, please. Dolphins, sea lions, and even some whales have been trained for non-combat operations such as retrieving munitions from the seafloor and elsewhere. The USNI offers that the pens could also be used for fish farming, but the location of the pen is a little suspect. Nampo is not only where this supposed pen is. Nampo is not only a major naval base for the North, but also the location of the West Sea Bridge, which separates the Taegong River from the Yellow Sea, a dam construction North Korea is very proud of and would want to defend. If it is true, the North Koreans would be joining the Dolphin Club. I'm sorry, I'm laughing, but this also includes United States, Russia, and possibly Iran. The U.S. used its marine allies during the Vietnam War and the Persian Gulf in anti-swimmer roles to keep saboteurs from attaching explosives to its ships and then tagging the divers so they could be captured. That is the reason why we call this series the Scuttlebutt.
I have done something wrong in this life. How can I get an attack dolphin? I want to try my whole Marine Corps existence all over again. I want my own attack dolphin. That's it.
You could ride and you could, point at things and it would go after them.
Could you imagine Free Willy as an attacker?
That changes that entire
That
movie.
changes the whole movie. Everything.
Flipper the attack dolphin.
Flipper. We're going to look at Flipper so differently after this.
This is terrifying to me, to be honest. One, I have a phobia of water I can't see the bottom of. And the idea that an attack dolphin is down there waiting for me is terrifying. Number two, on a global scale, right, this just has bad news written all over it. We have an axis of evil, North Korea, Russia, Iran, all getting together to work on WMDs, which is just
Porpoises of mass destruction.
Bad news.
Porpoises of mass destruction. Hashtag that, please.
What mammal? What?
I just want to know that I just had a mental image because I've seen us all on ships before. That like when you sailing by like little islands and you see like the wildlife and you go to a point like, oh look, there's a sea lion for like people who've never seen it before. You know I'm talking like on a cruise. And all of a sudden I got a mental image of like a set of dolphins, a pod of dolphins coming and attacking a ship, it working flawlessly, and then the seals just going ar on the side of the island in excitement because they're proud of their teammates. Like, we did it. And like, I'm sorry, I've done something wrong in my career. I need to redo.
Is this how the movie Planet of the Apes like begins, but with dolphins?
It is.
Yeah.
This is how we go. This is how it turns.
Yep.
It's like a Dr. Evil type thing. They're gonna have freaking lasers on their head. And
speaking of freaking laser beams attached to their heads, there is an article talking about lasers being attached to Air Force fighter jets. The U.S. Air Force is working with aerospace defense firm Lockheed Martin to deploy, I'm adding a word here, freaking lasers on fighter jets by 2025, going by the term SHIELD. That's very Marvel of them, with the lowercase I, though, aka self-protect high-energy laser demonstrator. This is the wave of the future. We have a Space Force, and I should plug that now that we did not forget Space Force in our research of the branches. We are going to be bringing Space Force to you early next year. But we could also have lasers on our fighter jets. Now,
as much as I would love to joke this, there are a few video games out right now, Ace Combat 7 being one of them. When you have the higher tier jets, laser defense is part of their thing. Then you understand that laser communication is something that they want to go to, because the transmission rate in a laser beam from one point to another is much faster than you can get with a cable line, and it can reach further distances. So as much as I would like to joke this one, this is technology that's been here for a hot minute. So it's only, I'd say it's only right. We've been using lasers on our rifles to go for distance, ships for whatever purposes that are still classified. So in going on the planes, it makes sense.
This is 100% happening. Number one, it's lasers, so it's cool and exciting. And number two, it has a cool acronym, SHIELD. Like it's happening.
Becky, there's nothing but nerds on this call, so
I'm telling you, I'm just taking it all in.
I would love to be in the room with the guy who came up with the idea of SHIELD and thought that he was slick, because I know that he was like, oh, we're gonna call it SHIELD.
You ever think that these things happen the opposite way? Like they come up with the acronym they want, and then they make the words to fit the cool acronym, not the other way around. Like they don't name it and then shrink it down to an acronym. They come up with the acronym that's cool, and then they just have to wordsmith their way to make it accurate. Is what
Mammal demolitions or WMDs. Like, well, let's use one that we already have, and this one works.
That's never caused any problems before.
I want to get paid for that. What job opening in the Pentagon is like, hey, that guy, he does the acronyms.
There's definitely one for
Mhm.
sure.
Oh,
There's an assistant major or lieutenant colonel aide de camp who that's his job, you know.
Actually, I'd like to throw the next scuttlebutt to you, Ryan. Is the Army Smart Soldier goggles? These things seemed really interesting. I don't know if you wanted to give us the update on what these are. That they are in a test phase. Uh, Army soldiers training with virtual goggles on, going around doing field ops where they can, see the map of the terrain that they are working in, and they can actually pinpoint spots to send their squad mates.
Yeah, this sort of thing has been in development for a long time. I was actually like lucky enough. I was at a training site somewhere where a couple of us got selected, and they put these test things on us and made us run around and told us how they were, and just to give them some feedback about how they were. And at the time, this was a few years ago, they were really just trying to figure out how to make the battery packs smaller so that it could work. But the Army's been working on this sort of integrated squad technology for a long time. So I think it's going to happen. There's going to be something like that where you have a visor and a heads-up display that you can see everyone else. It's going to make an infantry squad more lethal. It's probably going to be able to reduce friendly fire incidences by quite a amount, because if everyone has one of these on, then you can look up and you can see where everyone is. It can help you with a camera on your rifle, shoot around corners. There's a lot of different applications for technology like this. So yeah, they're going to be pretty cool pretty soon. And I wish I was 20 years younger and could join the infantry now, because I'd probably be pretty cool by the end of it.
So far in this episode, we have lasers on jets, we have killer dolphins, uh, pretty much VR capable goggles uh, for Army soldiers. This is a seriously high tech defense that the United States is building. This is almost like Army of the Future. A lot of things. This is almost a full Scuttlebutt episode in its own right. Is Army of the Future? What tech is out there that we are playing with that we will see implemented in the next 20 years?
Yeah,
And
James, for you guys in the Marines, it'll probably be like 40 years before.
actually, no,
but the Air
because
Force was 10 years ago,
yeah,
right?
10 years ago. No,
Yeah.
but
They're all
no.
waiting.
While I was in it, I'm talking like junior in my enlistment. I remember playing with remember the first iterations where they had the large computer on your forearm, and it was just a one eyepiece, and that was early on. And so what's so funny about this is that you take all this technology, and we could sit here and laugh about it all day long, but what this is actually doing is making all of our branches that much more sophisticated, that much more smarter, that much more tactically capable. And then as a operations chief looking back, I can run a whole entire map and see where everybody's at, their capabilities, and be able to do more with less because I know where everybody's at. I know what they can do. I know what they're about. So when it comes to again, going back to the video games, you do this with your teammates playing games like I don't know, um Warhammer,
Yeah.
war zones, and things like that, where you know where everybody is and you know what everybody can do. That changes the face of battle real quick. It's very impressive.
Yeah, one of the things I saw recently that was really cool. It was like this. They've been experimenting with drones that you can then control from your stuff. So some of them are flying, but what I thought was really interesting that they were looking at for an infantry squad application was this little tiny little like tank, and it was just there to like carry all your extra gear, or to be able to extract a wounded soldier by, you throw them on there and you use your little wrist thing and you send them coordinates and it goes back, or you can mount a machine gun on it, and then you can control that virtually while you're safe behind cover, and send this big machine gun little tank out to put out suppressive fire for you. Like that's going to be a very applicable type of thing that would be really cool to have, and very, very useful in a lot of ways.
And one of the things about the advent of new technology is the old technology becomes pretty cheap. Becky, I'd love to throw to you this headline that there are two Cold Era F-100s that are now on sale. You can buy them.
Well, I thought it'd be great on your Christmas gift list because they said you could buy it as affordably as a newer used car. So I sent that topic to a friend of mine who's a retired Air Force captain and said, hey, it might not fit in your driveway, but you live on a cul-de-sac, and they're flyable. They're the two that are available. The one they said is flyable and you can take a passenger.
Take a passenger and get to your parents' house within 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Better than being late, which is what we always are. But I did see a video in this article, and I believe it was from Popular Mechanics, that they were still playing with how could we get a plane to take off without a runway. So they were testing things out, and in this video, they attached a rocket to the bottom of the airplane, launched it with person in it, launched it like a rocket, get it up to speed, the rocket would fall off and the plane would keep going. I don't know where that technology went. Why did they stop using that?
Well, I guess my question is can any person purchase one of these? Do you need to show proof? You need a driver's license to buy a car. What do you need to buy an airplane?
I don't know, but let me find out.
Yes, James.
Please. It's on my Christmas list because
yes,
I was going to say, think of how well the military works with civilian counterparts. There's a reason why certain stretches of your highway are so long and straight for emergency landings around airports. So there's sections of the highway near the airport here that are long enough with no telephone poles, no wires going across, that if in case of emergency you could land or proverbially take off if I tow it in the middle of the road with my truck.
True. You can land somewhere, you can take off. And I knew an old Air Force colonel, old guy, Russell Hodges. He always used to say, any landing you can walk away from is a good one. So,
It's true. And speaking of fighter jets, we have talked a lot about them, and I have not hid my obsession with them. The Blue Angels are actually they are retiring the old FA 8FA, B, C, and D Hornets, and they are going to be implementing the new FA-18E and F Super Hornets into their squad. I don't know what you would call that. Your fleet. What is the
Squadron?
What's that?
Squadron?
I'm going to say Squadron. The newest model has a much more powerful engine. The Super Hornets are approximately 33% larger than the outgoing model with greater fuel capacity and upgraded avionics systems. The Blue Angels will make their debut in the Super Hornets for the 2021 season, opening in Jacksonville, April 10th and 11th. I love the Hornet. I think it's the coolest design, followed closely by the F-22. I love the V-shaped back of the wings. So we also, in this Scuttlebutt episode, wanted to honor a recent veteran's passing, Chuck Yeager, who was the first man to break the sound barrier. That was a huge accomplishment back at that time. We're talking a lot about technological advances. That was a big thing for us to be able to do, and he did it in the military. Is that correct?
I did see a news clip about that this week, and it was funny when they were interviewing him about it. His take on it was like, we didn't know what was going to happen when we broke the sound barrier. There's a possibility I just would have blown apart. And I'm like, to have that much bravery to go out there and be a test pilot, but then also to be like, hey, we're going to break the sound barrier with you, and so what an accomplishment, what a guy. Great, huge loss. And
Hollywood documented it in a great film called The Right Stuff, and I highly recommend it.
The Right Stuff. I have not seen it. I would like to see that though, because as we've talked, also there aren't that many great fighter jet movies out there. We have Top Gun, and what else?
Iron Eagle.
Somebody remembered.
That was for you, James.
That movie's so
bad. It is
so horrible.
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
It was pretty.
It was a fairly decent Jamie Foxx movie, which was a futuristic fighter jet.
Stealth.
Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah. That one had some good cinematography. But I mean, that's less than a handful.
Yeah.
Really. Darn COVID. I want Maverick. Bring me Top Gun 2.
Right.
And I guess we can probably wrap up our Scuttlebutt episode. I do want to bring up one more headline, honoring the Chinese Americans who served during World War II. In 2018, more than 18,000 Chinese Americans vets were collectively awarded the Congressional Gold Medal, but the pandemic has delayed formal presentation of the award. During World War II, the Chinese Exclusion Act prohibited most Chinese immigrants from becoming naturalized citizens. Ed Gore, National Director of the Chinese American World War II Veterans Recognition Project, said that fewer than 300 service members still alive today are eager to see the medal presented. Most of them came back to become professionals, businessmen, getting married, starting families, just contributing, I'd call it almost silently, into the fabric of the United States of America, Gore said. These guys had never been acknowledged for their service. I'm never going to say that any one of our men and women who served were any more brave or courageous or patriotic next to anyone else who was African American or Hispanic or white. He said, what we'd like everybody to know is we served alongside everyone else for the betterment of the country and to win this war. Gore went on to say. This is a huge deal. Hopefully that this award gets a presentation soon, as we maybe can come out of the pandemic. I think it's a very important award, especially and a headline grabber in the sense that many people probably didn't know that Chinese Americans were serving in World War II.
Well, that and having been stationed in Hawaii and to understand the history and living in Eva Beach, where they actually had some of the internment camps where they sent Chinese Americans because they were scared and things like that. This is huge. This is huge uh, for the Chinese veterans, just the Chinese Americans, period, to be recognized when they were cast away for a long period of time. This is massive. It's beautiful.
I think it's important to recognize that um, the people who have sacrificed and have helped build this country and make it what it is come from all walks, all genders, all races, all ethnicities, and that's what helps make this country great and what makes us such a strong nation. And how, and we need to remind ourselves with things like this that we're not a perfect union yet, and we have made mistakes in the past, and our striving to be better is what makes us great, and our diversity and our inclusion is what can help us do that.
Becky, would you like to have a sign off here as we wrap up season 1?
I think the Scuttlebutt as a whole is just a great shortened version of getting topics about the military out to everyone. And I've been happy to be a part of it. And I look forward to next year and see what changes are for the future.
Thank you. James?
I'm just gonna leave this on a good note, saying we've made it to the end of. Everyone has made it to the end of 2020. It's been a rough one, but we have adapted. We have overcame, and we are still here. And for those who are out here listening, I wish you the best of holidays. Stay safe, wash your hands, and see you next year.
Ryan, sir?
Thank you so much for having me on the Scuttlebutt this season. I know it's been a tough year, and I want everyone to be safe, enjoy their holidays, and we're not going to forget all the people that we've lost this year, and let's hope for a better 2021. But thanks, everyone.
I echo all of your sentiments. It's been a blast doing this show with you, and I'm really looking forward to having you all back to continue to dissect and understand military culture. I think when we started this series, we weren't necessarily quite sure how it was going to go. We had an idea, and we wanted to network and find people who were interested in discussing with us military culture. And I thought it was great that we went through each of the branches and had service members and veterans from each spot talk about what made them unique, what drove them to serve. And I think that's an interesting conversation that we will definitely continue into season 2. But again, I echo, yes, I hope everyone has a very safe, healthy, happy holiday season. And if you have been following the Scuttlebutt during this time and you haven't quite yet liked, shared, subscribed, ring the bell on YouTube. Please do all of that and check us out on TikTok. Come to the VBC website, listen to some of the other stories that we caught in our other programming, VBC Coffee Hour, VBC Happy Hour, our Greatest Generation Live, where we talk to World War II veterans. There's a lot of stories, and we're continuing to bring those stories to everyone to help bridge that divide. And we'd love to hear from you. So please comment and let us know what you're thinking of the series. We always love hearing from you. Thank you. Happy Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, happy New Year. Welcome to the bonus segment of the episode that you just listened to of the Scuttlebutt. We usually have a little bit of leadway into each episode, and we have a little bit of post time where we sit around and chat. And James Martin asked me a couple questions afterwards that I didn't know he was going to ask me. And I thought it was pertinent to add this as a bonus section at the end of the episode, especially at the end of this season 1. The 3 questions that he asked me were, what have I learned over the course of this podcast thus far? What I would go back to week 1 and tell myself at this point, and what I'm looking forward to in season 2. I think my candid responses were something that we would like to add to this, seeing as how I am a non-veteran, and what I have figured out and what I have been understanding about this military culture and the veterans that have been so gracious to join me on the podcast, I thought was interesting to talk about. I've been very honored and fortunate to be a part of these stories and to listen to what these veterans have to say. I am always in awe, and I always learn something every single time. I'm really excited for our season 2 of the Scuttlebutt. I feel like we're going to start to open up the playbook a little bit, so to speak. I think we're going to have a lot of fun. We definitely are going to be getting to Space Force, and I think that we're going to really have some surprises in store for everyone. So I hope that you join us for season 2, which will start in February of 2021. So happy to be done with 2020, let me tell you, and looking forward to seeing you all in season 2.
Sean, you came into this new. You've been surrounded by veterans for multiple episodes. What is something that you have gotten out of all of this?
I've been like thinking about that for a while because I feel like I get something different from each set of veterans that I talk to from each of like the different branches. Like I get, but the thing I think that combines it all is this passion, the passion for the country, the passion for defense, the passion for the work, that it was meaningful. The one thing that kept ringing true to me leaving the theater world and coming to this was that it was I loved working in theater. I love theater, but also theater is a way for us to tell stories, mostly fictional stories, to help people connect and be together in a room and learn and all of these things. This is very much the same thing, but something that really started to ring to me after about a month of being with VBC and just hearing the stories consistently was how true, how felt all of these stories are. And it's something that you don't necessarily understand until you really you start hearing it a lot, and you're like, these stories really affected these people in very real ways. And that was something that I think I needed to transition my brain to from hearing fictional tales for so long. It was like, no, these are stories that are going to sit with people forever. And they are and they mean something. And that's something that has really got me up in the morning to continue the work, because I think that they are important stories. And I think I learn more from these stories than I did in theater. They're different. I can watch a family sort of, muddle in the mud for a while, but to hear you 3 talk about your experiences, to hear all of our veterans talk about theirs, to hear our active duty people talk about what brought them to the work, why they're doing it, why they're passionate about, even like our Coast Guard coastie guy from the last episode, Jacob, who's just like, yeah, that's our mission. We put buoys into the river. I mean, that's not like glamorous work to look at it, but it means something to him. He's contributing to the country. I think it's a long-winded way of just saying that I have found great appreciation in spending time with you all, and I'm very humbled by it. It gives me a level of clarity in my life, that don't sweat the small stuff, because it really is like it makes me appreciate life more. And that might be meta. That might sound very like, oh, appreciate life, but really it does.
Mhm.
Hearing these stories of loss, the stories of sacrifice, it's like, I look at my daughter and I think the world doesn't deserve you, but there are good people in it, and they're trying to do their best to make sure that we continue to have a good world.
That's an awesome answer. That was beautiful. I love that. If you could go back and talk to pre-episode one you, what would you say to him?
I think in the theater world, especially doing like stage plays and stuff, there's always this thing in the theater world about being, and I relate back to it a lot because it was my life for a decade. But there was always this thing about being the best in the room, being the most showy, the biggest personality, the whatever. And it's still prevalent in that community. If you're not the most talented, you're almost muted by the rest of them. But I really love that in this space and in the VBC room, I don't have to be bigger than anything. I can just be me, and I can just ask questions and listen. And that's very human. And that's something I appreciate. But I think in the first episode, I was very much about like, how do I be the entertaining person and bring all of this to everybody in an entertaining fashion, when really I think it's so human. All we have to be is ourselves and listen to the stories, and those are what really drives what each episode. We want to listen because the stories are interesting to listen to.
And then from there to now, what do you look forward to in the next year? What is something that drives you like, I have to have this episode. I have to have this conversation. What part of you yearns for more knowledge coming forward to the next season?
I have really what I've found, and this sort of sprouted as I've been watching the Vietnam Ken Burns documentary, and listening to our Vietnam vets because we have a large network of them. That's that, like I've talked about, they being real. That war is very real to them, but it wasn't my generation's war. And I think what I've become more passionate about and started really researching is the last 20 years. Because it's everything I have heard. Whether I was paying attention to what was going on in the Middle East or not, you'd hear it and you'd sort of be up to date on where we're at, what's going on. But figuring out the nuances of the battles, or when we left, or when this person took power, and all of these things, these really interesting things that were going on in Vietnam. You watch the documentary and that was all happening back then too, but then you watch what was going on in the last 20 years. And I'm excited because we're doing this new program, post 9/11 generation. I, I think that I can relate to this. Like, you used to tell me 2008, I know where I was, I know what I was doing, I know what my mindset was at that point. But also talking with people that are veterans like you both, that are in my generation and your experiences, I think there's a connection level there that's a little different than trying to understand Vietnam era or trying to understand Korea or World War II. I think that's something that I really want to dive into. I really want to learn more about the people that enlisted after 9/11, why they did, where they went, how their stories have affected them, and what they are using that for as moving forward, how we are getting better or how we need to get better.